Hey guys, welcome to another installment of the Beginner's Guide to Collecting Star Wars Replicas just like the ones in here. And today, we're going to be focusing on displaying your prop replicas. Now, as Star Wars fans and as Star Wars collectors, we all dream of having a space just like my buddy Michael's. But unfortunately, not everybody has the space or the budget to create something custom like that. So in this video, we're going to be discussing alternative ways to display your Star Wars replicas, and I'm going to break down everything that I've done in this room to create this space, as well as show you what other collectors have done with very popular displaying options that you can get at IKEA or Amazon. So let's get started. Now, I think one of the first things we should discuss is IKEA. Now, IKEA is probably the most popular place where collectors buy their furniture to display their stuff. And there's very common, very popular pieces of furniture at IKEA that collectors use. So the first one is the Billy collection. And Billies are essentially just bookshelves, right? Just a standard basic bookshelves. They're about 11 inches wide, and you could actually get extensions to go up higher. Now, another very popular model of furniture are the Bestas. And Bestas are essentially what you see in here. And Bestas are just bigger display cases. They tend to be about 16 inches wide. So for certain pieces like helmets or just anything bigger that you need more space, you have to move up to the Bestas in order to fit that piece. Now, another very popular piece is the Detolf. And the Detolf essentially is just a glass case, and it has glass all the way around, and a lot of collectors use Detolfs for their collections. So let's talk about Billies. So like I said, Billies are very popular amongst collectors because they're essentially just bookshelves, right? And collectors put them everywhere around the house. Now, as you can see here, I use Billies in my second collection room. And the cool thing about Billies is that you could get extensions that go all the way up to the ceiling in order to give that whole like built-in bookshelf look. So Billies also have doors that you can get, and you could essentially customize it however you want. There's smaller doors, there's solid doors, there's glass clear types of doors. So there's a lot of ways to customize those. And again, because they're so cheap, you could essentially build a whole wall of displays and make it look awesome. Now, just like any other bookshelf, Billies have the shelves that you can move up and down. So obviously, if you have a taller piece or a shorter piece, you could always customize those shelves to fit your display, just like I did here. So now let's talk about Bestas. Now, Bestas are actually really, really awesome. And Bestas is pretty much what I've used in this whole room. So as you can see here, and I'll break it all down, there's a lot of different types of combinations for Bestas. Now, you do have to buy them separate. You have to buy the frame separately, and then you have to buy the door separately. Now, the doors don't come with hinges, so you also have to buy the hinges. So even though at first it might look like it's pretty cheap, it ends up being a little bit more expensive if you decide to put the doors on. But as far as my display, here's how it goes. So I have to open the windows here, the little doors, to show you exactly what I did. So this bottom piece is one of the largest pieces that IKEA sells. Now, you can't buy it by itself anymore. You have to get it with the doors, but it's this huge piece that essentially it's like 6 squares in one. And then as you could see there on the very top, I have another one just like this one stacked on top. So really it's only 2 pieces stacked on top of each other. And once the doors are on, they obviously cover the seams. Now this one I use, it's essentially a 2x2. So 2 rows of 2 squares, and then on top I have 2 sets of these. Now that 2x2 you can't get anymore, so you would essentially have to get the 2 square pieces. So you would need 8 of these in order to create the same number of squares that I have. And as you could see there, you could see where it's split and where I attach. Now, every single time there's a split there, I actually screw them together to make sure that they're on there tight. Now, this one is a single row. It's this one, where you can make 3 squares out of this one. And then on the very top, I have a single square, which gives it the appearance that it's 4 squares going all the way to the top. And with Bestas, you could pick different colors. They come in white, they come in this dark black brown color that I have, and they also come in a more just kind of natural wood look. Now, the cool thing about Bestas too is that they also make smaller, thinner Bestas, which are great to display like the lightsabers and the blasters. So that's what I used in this wall. And as you can see here, I mixed and matched different styles and different sizes to build it all the way up to the ceiling. Now on this display, I decided not to use windows like the big helmet display, but you could obviously also put windows and the little doors on those as well. Now I want to remind everyone, even though I'm showing you exactly what I did here, this is not a how-to video, and I'm definitely not recommending you doing this type of stuff and stacking these things unless you're either a professional or you have, you know, somebody that really knows what they're doing, because I would hate to have you try to stack these things up and all of a sudden just collapses on you, and obviously someone could get really hurt. So make sure you get a professional to help you install them, and always make sure you anchor any of these pieces to the stud of your house. So now let's talk about Detolfs. Now Detolfs, again, are so popular amongst many collectors. It doesn't even have to be Star Wars replica stuff. Collectors use them for displaying statues, pretty much anything, and they're very common. Now, Detolfs are exclusively sold at IKEA, obviously, and they're really cool because you could actually end up using them in different ways. So just like you see here, you could just kind of put them next to your furniture and they look very nice, very classy, and you know, you could put your Star Wars replicas in there. Now, some people end up combining different ways of displaying those Detolfs. So as you could see here, some people even stack them on top of other Bestas just to give it that height, and you know, it just makes it look more impressive that way. Now other people, like you see here, create a whole room full of Detolfs, and it gives it that just very impressive look, you know, when you walk in, kind of like a museum look. And like I said, that's why they're so popular. Now I do want to show you a little hack that I learned, you know, regarding Detolfs. Now, I had a lot of issues with raising the glass higher or lower, right? Because let's say you have a small little replica and you know, you put it on one of the shelves, well, you get a lot of empty space above that. Or vice versa, right? You get a very tall piece and the glass just doesn't fit on top of it, right? You need more space. So what I discovered and what I learned from another collector is that you can get some of these cable locks, as you can see here. Now these little cable locks, they sell them at Home Depot or Lowe's. Most hardware stores will sell them, and they're relatively cheap, right? They're a couple bucks each. And what you do is you essentially just hook them onto the little frame, and you can raise it or lower it or essentially customize it however you want. So that's been something that I learned and something that you could apply to those too. So this is a great solution, super cheap, in order to customize those Detolfs. Now another cool thing about Detolfs is that they already have a hole pre-drilled on top of them. So you could essentially just buy the little light that IKEA offers, plug it in, and you're ready to go, and your display is lit. Now other people, what they do is they buy LED lights and run them across the whole display. And this is a cool way to do it, because if you if you have multiple Detolfs and you want them all lit, so when you turn on the light, they all turn on, it's a great way to essentially daisy chain all of them together to get a cool, you know, lighting effect. Now let's talk about shelves. Now, I'm only going to talk about 2 shelves because obviously there's different types, and you could get a bunch of them. The first thing that you need to make sure is that the weight capacity of the shelves that you buy are gonna match the weight of your prop replica, right? You don't wanna put something on there and all of a sudden it just collapses. The other thing you wanna make sure is that if you can't find a stud, or I would recommend putting it on a stud, right? You don't wanna put a very expensive replica on a shelf that's not anchored to a stud. But obviously, sometimes maybe there's not a stud in the space that you want to put it on. So just make sure you get some good solid anchors. Make sure you really look at the weight capacity of those anchors before you place your replica on there, right? Because obviously you don't want a disaster to happen. So what I did here in my room is I used these heavy duty brackets that I found on Amazon. And these heavy duty brackets allowed me to essentially put heavier items on the shelves. Now, every single one of mine, like I said, is anchored. At least one of them is anchored to the stud. So I would never have put, the C3PO bust that you see here without it being anchored to a stud. Now for my shelves, I had to actually use something a little bit more custom because I needed more depth in order to fit some of these pieces. So I actually ended up using cabinet doors as the shelves. So these aren't just normal shelves. I needed them at least 12 inches wide. So the only solution that I found was to use cabinet doors as the shelves, and it ended up working perfectly. Now another type of shelf that you could actually get at IKEA are LACK shelves. And as you can see here, Eddie from the cargo hold used these LACK shelves to display some of his prop replicas, and it looks great. I especially love the fact that it looks like, it's a floating shelf, right? So you don't get that ugly bracket kind of sticking out. And the cool thing about LACKs is that they're wide enough to fit most prop replicas. Also, you could find them in different colors. You can get them in white, pretty much all the typical colors that IKEA makes their furniture in. But shelves could be a really quick and easy way to display your stuff. And like I said, the most important thing is just making sure that the weight capacity matches your prop. Now finally, I want to show you this cool way that my buddy Julio and Noah used to display his helmets. Now his display is so cool because he has so many helmets and he found such a cool way to display them. So what he did is he used these modular shelves, right? And you could get them here, and they're kind of used for more like pet cages, but you could see that he used that for the bottom, and then for the sides he used these cube modular little boxes. But such a great idea and such an easy and cheap way to display your stuff. Now let's talk about lighting. Now lighting is also very important when it comes to displaying your Star Wars replicas, because you want to make sure you get the right light. Now again, this isn't a how-to video, and I don't recommend you doing this unless you know what you're doing or unless you contact a professional electrician. Again, you don't want to be playing around, especially when, it's in your home. You don't want your house to catch on fire, but also you don't want to end up losing some of these pieces, right? So make sure you only do it when a professional is around or if you know what you're doing. Now there's a lot of different ways to go about this. Now me personally, in my room, I use kitchen puck lights, and I'll put the description and the link to where you could get the ones that I used. Now I wanted it to be really bright, just really white light in here. So I ended up going with 6,000 Kelvin. So these puck lights are the same that I used across the whole room. So I used them in my Bestas, I used them in the weapons display, and I also used them in my shelves. Now, what you have to do though, you have to drill holes, okay? Because they're not meant to have these lights, right? So what I did is I did a hole on every single shelf and on the very top of the shelf, and then just drilled it up. And I ran the cable and ran it behind them. Obviously, make sure you do a lot of cable management and all that. And everything is linked together, so when I turn on the light switch, everything just turns on. Now for smaller rooms, you could always get these track lights, and they're pretty cheap at Home Depot or at Lowe's. You probably do it under $100. Obviously you need an electrician to put these in unless you know what you're doing, but these are great alternatives to light your replicas, especially in a place where you're not going to have access to put the puck lights inside of the bookshelves. So definitely recommend going this route, especially in a tight space. So now let's talk about museum style pedestals. Now these pedestals are great to really show off that one piece that deserves all the attention. So for example, I use them here for CZ3, but I'm also going to show you how other collectors use them. Now the way I did mine is essentially just another BESTE cabinet with a solid door. And the way I did it like this is so I can use it for storage like you see here. And it gives me just some extra storage, just for my room so it stays nice and clean. But other collectors like Lee over at the cargo hold did an amazing job over here displaying his Vader helmet. And it just looks so amazing, and it just looks like such a museum style piece. I loved it. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you got a lot of great tips on how to display your prop replicas. So like always, don't forget, like, subscribe, follow me on social media, and watch out for my next videos. Thanks guys.